This video is sponsored by VideoTouch.
United Kingdom.
The Imperial War Museum is a branch of museums that showcases the realities of recent war and conflict. This museum in particular is the one that you'll find in Southwark on the border of Lambeth in London and houses the collection of several million items collected from conflict zones. The museum's planning permission was granted in 1917 and was intended to record civil and military war efforts and sacrifices of the British Empire during World War I. The idea came about thanks to the Liberal MP Sir Alfred Mond, who wrote to the Prime Minister requesting the establishment of a national war museum. During the First World War, the museum had already begun collecting several thousand pieces from the front lines. The Member of Parliament Mond even travelled to war zones to better understand how items could be displayed. In 1917, a resolution from the India and Dominions Committee would lead to the museum rebranding itself as the Imperial War Museum. The museum was officially opened in 1920 by King George V and was originally located at the Crystal Palace. At the opening ceremony, MP Mond made a speech vigorously detailing the idea that the museum is not a glorification of war, but a staunch and visual record of toil and sacrifice. To reflect the museum's imperial remit, the board of directors was made up of appointees from the governments of India, South Africa, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Not all in Parliament, however, was in favour of the idea. As usual, several on the Labour benches were against the idea of using public money to, in their own words, commemorate suicidal madness. In the mid-1920s, the museum moved to the Imperial Institute building in South Kensington, a spot today you'll find popular for museums. A decade later, it was moved again to its final location, owing to space becoming too inadequate for collections. The museum was once again reopened, this time by the Duke of York. Now in the 1940s, the museum once again found itself collecting items as a result of the outbreak of World War II. Interestingly, 18 pieces of the museum's artillery collection was returned to the army to be put back to use, and other war items were also returned to various parts of the armed forces, some of which they refused to give back, even today. After the war, the museum couldn't fully reopen until the late 1940s, owing to the sustained bomb damage from the Nazi forces. In the 1950s, war in Korea and Malaya broke out, and once again the museum started collecting pieces. In the 1960s, the museum acquired its massive naval guns, which now sit outside, and are representative of the dreadnought era of British battleships. In 1968, a man attempted to burn down the museum as he didn't agree with the idea of showing children the history of war. He caused over £200,000 worth of damage, today that's about £3.7 million, as well as the loss of important books and documents from the various wars. In the 1970s, the museum continued to acquire various pieces, and it was during this time, owing to the lack of space once again, that the first regional branch was opened in Duxford. In the 1980s, the museum took over the control of the Cabinet War Rooms in Whitehall, where Churchill commanded the war effort, thus becoming the third branch. In 1992, the Irish Republican Army placed 2 incendiary devices in the gallery basement. Fortunately, the fires were quickly extinguished. In the early 2000s, Imperial War Museum North was opened in Manchester, and a permanent exhibition to the Holocaust was opened in the Southwark Museum. Today, the museum houses all kinds of original pieces from across the various wars and conflict zones in which the British and Commonwealth forces were involved. This includes a large amount of foreign documents from Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, various pieces of art including paintings, prints, drawings, sculpture, film, photography, and recordings, items from the Falklands, Northern Ireland, the Persian Gulf, Bosnia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The museum's film archive is officially one of the oldest in the world and is made up of very rare material, including footage of the Battle of the Somme and even Nazi propaganda films and the liberation of Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. Perhaps one of the more shocking items on display is a piece of the World Trade Center from the 9/11 attacks on New York. There are also many personal items on display, including drawings from the trenches, uniforms, badges, stamps, proclamations, magazines, insignia, and even Churchill's own pistol. The museum's sound archive holds over 30,000 recordings, including a large collection of oral history dating back to 1914. There are even historic BBC broadcasts and historic speeches. If you want to visit the Imperial War Museum, head to Southwark in London. Closest tube stations are Lambeth North, Elephant and Castle, Kennington, Southwark, and Waterloo. The museum is open Monday to Sunday, 10 till 6, and is completely free entry. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out this one, or this one, or this one, or even this one? If you want to show some extra love, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, press the notification bell, and follow me on social media. Ciao for now.